peace and quiet to Israel in his days. He shall build a house for my name, and he shall be my son, and I will be his father, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever. That's the background of Psalm 30. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not true that we all long for times of temporal prosperity? Raise your hand if you've never wanted to have more. More wealth, more time, more peace in your home. Something that this life has to offer. More health. Is it not true that we all long for times of worldly success, worldly victory or tranquility, times of financial security or physical health, times of fruitful labor, times of growth within God's church, times when we're feeling well, when the family is at peace, when we enjoy our work, our car is running, the world is in order, and I can sit back and what? Just relax. That sounds great. Sounds awesome. Just to have that time when the world is not surrounding me. Sometimes does not our Father grant us these things? Sometimes God extends his favor in the form of temporal prosperity. Sometimes he gives us success. Sometimes he gives us peace. And we prosper in all the ways that we hope for. And what we learn from God through his servant David is we cannot let our guard down in those times. When God abounds to you, when God shows favor towards you in a very practical, temporal way, when he gives you success on this earth, and when he blesses you and he gives you an abundance, be careful, brothers and sisters, because we cannot let our guard down at that time. We can't find our strength in these things. We should not assume that these things are the solid foundation that they may appear to be. Have you ever been in that place where you thought, it's all good now? How long did it take before it fell apart? For all that you took comfort in, all that you were confident about, all the things that you were so secure in, let you down. It's in truth, it is at such times that our Father exhorts us to be on high alert. Stay frosty. Stay frosty. Don't let your guard down. No. If God abounds to you, great. Praise the Lord. That's good. If God doesn't, great. Praise the Lord. That's good. But don't let your guard down. It happens though, doesn't it? God allows us to prosper. He allows us to succeed. We let our guard down. We get a little full of ourselves. We get a little overconfident. We get haughty. We think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think. And we find ourselves in a bad place. Maybe there are other times when we don't have what we want and God hasn't prospered us the way we desire. And we go to that place where we say, you know, if I could just get this, or if I could just have that, or if I could just be in that place, then the world would be right. Then I would be set. If I could just have this, or if I could just have that, or if I could just have health, or if I could just have all my cars work at the same time, if I could just have, whatever it may be for you, it's different for every one of you. Every one of us is different. Prosperity looks a little different. Success looks a little different. So as we look at Psalm 30, let us consider and let us keep these things in mind. Let's keep this reality in mind that prosperity is not a bad thing. Success is not a bad thing. Security is not a bad thing. But trusting in these things is a very bad thing and can cost you dearly, because it cost David. A song of dedication for the house, a psalm of David, Psalm 30, verse 1. I will extol you, David says, O Lord, for you have lifted me up and have not let my enemies rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried to you for help, and you healed me. O Lord, you have brought up my soul from Sheol. Keep in mind, the context of this song are the events of God bringing down his wrath, his anger upon Israel, and destroying 70,000 people with pestilence over the course of 3 days. Sending his angel with the drawn sword to do what he said he would do. Afterward, David says, I will extol you. You have kept me alive, in verse 3, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing praises. David invites those who hear this song to sing praises to the Lord, you his godly ones, and give thanks to his holy name, for his anger is but for a moment. His favor is for a lifetime. Weeping may last for the night, but a shout of joy comes in the morning. David goes back and he looks back in hindsight and he recounts, he confesses what happened during that time, and he says, now as for me, I said in my prosperity, I said in my comfort, in my success, I said in my time of ease, in my abundance, in my 1.5 million soldiers, I will not be moved. I said in my prosperity, I will never be moved. O Lord, by your favor, you have made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face. I was dismayed. He says, when that happened, he goes on to say, to you, O Lord, I called, and to the Lord I made supplication. I came to my God in prayer, and I said to the Lord, what profit is there in my blood if I go down to the pit? Will the dust praise you? Will it declare your faithfulness? Hear, O Lord. He begged God. He pled with God. When his people were dying, he was pleading to God. And he said, hear, O Lord. And be gracious, be merciful to me. O Lord, be my helper. You have turned for me, David says. You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosed my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, that my soul may sing praises to you and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks to you forever. What a song. What a song to sing at the dedication of the temple that was to be built. A song that was called to remember what took place at that place. How God exacted his judgment on his people, and in his anger he smote them with pestilence. But in his mercy, he heard the cry of his servant, and he put the sword, he commanded the angel of the Lord to put the sword back in its sheath, and the Lord stopped. He felt sorry for the calamity that was coming upon his people. God had mercy. David knew it. When the Lord said, I give you three choices, he says, oh Lord, let me fall into your hands and not into the hands of men, for your mercies are great. Whose hand do you want to fall in? If you're going to be judged, if you're going to be disciplined, who do you want to be disciplined by? Let's consider a couple of things. Two really good reasons to extol. To extol means to lift up, to exalt, to promote. Two really good reasons to extol the Lord our God. And I think it's good for us to learn words like that, isn't it? So when you read them, you go, extol. Similar to praise, similar to exalt. You hear those words all the time, in the Psalms especially. Two really good reasons to extol. The first one is this, and we find it in verses 6 and 7. Extol the Lord our God because he loves us and disciplines us for our good. Do you believe that? Sons and daughters of God, through faith in Jesus Christ, do you believe that God disciplines us for our good? And that discipline proceeds forth from our Father's love for his children.
Amen.
You see, the Lord did not let his servant David stay in that arrogant place. He did not let his saint, his Holy One, remain in his arrogance. He didn't let him get away with a haughty face, a haughty countenance. Psalm 10:6 says, the wicked says in the haughtiness of his countenance, I shall not be moved. Those were the words of David. I will never be moved. David was saying, I'm standing firm right here. I got 1.5 million men in my back. Who's coming? Who can take me out now? And the Lord's like, David says, by your favor, my mountain stands firm. Yeah, but you're still trusting that, you're thinking that it's the mountain of men that's behind you that's going to protect you and save you. And it's not them. It's not the abundance of soldiers, and it's not the military might that I've given you that's going to protect you, son. It's me. David confesses. He says, in my prosperity, I said in my security and my success, my large army, I will never be moved. I'm set. We can't afford to speak this way, brothers and sisters. If God has prospered you, you cannot afford to think that is going to be the case for all time. Yes, give thanks to God for it. Do not put your trust in it. And if he hasn't prospered you, if you don't feel like God's prospered you, we cannot think that obtaining prosperity is the solution to all our problems. We cannot think that obtaining prosperity is what's going to give us the security we so desperately long for. Our Father does not let his children get away with self-exalting arrogance. Our Father disciplines those he loves. How stiff was the discipline of the Lord on the day when, in that 3-day period, when God sent his angel to smite the nation. How many people died? Anybody remember?
70,000.
70,000 people lost their lives. How many people didn't die?
4.
Well, if you do the math, 1,570,000 men, fighting men.
Plus their wives and children.
I'm guessing that 70,000 fighting men lost their lives.
That's a lot of men and children.
How many didn't lose their lives?
1.5.
1.5 million. Did that have to be the case? Could God have poured out his wrath on the whole nation and left him with nothing? Would he have been justified in doing so? Our If our Father has prospered us, we cannot afford to think that prosperity is what we need to put our trust in. Think about Jesus' words in Luke chapter 12. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But Jesus said to that man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter over you? And he said to them, beware. Brothers and sisters, beware and be on your guard against every form of greed. I'm not a big fan of Joab, but Joab, David's commander, knew that the census was what?
Wrong.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea, O king. Do it. Jesus said to this man who was telling him to tell his brother to divide the inheritance with him, he says, beware and be on guard against every form of greed. For not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions. And he told him a parable, saying, the land of a certain rich man was very productive. And this man began reasoning to himself, and he said, what shall I do? What shall I do, since I have no place to store my crops? And he thought, and he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns, and I'll build larger ones. And there I'm going to store all my grain and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years to come. I'll say to myself, soul, you're good to go. You're set. Take your ease. I'll say to myself, take your ease. Eat, drink, be merry. But God said to that man, you fool, this very night your soul is required of you. And now, who will own what you have prepared? So is the man who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. David goes on to say, O Lord, by your favor, you have made my mountain to stand strong. It's as if David was saying, oh Lord, I'm good to go now. I'm strong now that I have a 1.5 million man army. See, even in his praise, he did a good job praising God. By your favor, he acknowledged rightly where it came from. But his confidence was not in the Lord who gave it. His confidence was in what the Lord had given him. He equated his military might with strength. Was David not strong when he was running from Saul? Was David not strong when he stood before Goliath in the name of the living God? Who was his strength then? When he was running and hiding in caves, the Lord was still his strength, was he not? The same God who was his God when he had this huge army was the same God who was with him when there were only 300 men fighting with him. O Lord, by your favor, you have made my mountain stand strong. The Lord's response, yes, I gave you that army. But that army is not the mountain you should be standing on. Let us be careful, brothers and sisters, lest our hearts turn to things, lest our hearts, Let me read that again. Let us be careful in our hearts to see things in light of the truth, so that our confidence will be in the rock and not in what he has given us. David testifies that when he said this, what did the Lord do? What did the Lord do? When David went to this place, he said in his prosperity, I will never be moved. What did the Lord do?
Moved him.
He hid his face. Remember we talked about last week? The Lord says to David, seek my face. My heart said to you, your face, O Lord, I shall seek. Whose face do you seek? Whose approval do you look for? Whose face are you looking for in the crowd of faces? And when that face is looking away because it's ashamed of you, how do you feel? Does that bother you, child of God? When your father goes,